Let's get into the Hillary Rodham Clinton conversation, the deposition that took place as Hillary Clinton testified she had no idea of Epstein's crimes. We'll start there first.
Hillary Clinton has admitted that she did know Ghislaine Maxwell well enough that you can see.
Yep. Remember this? Remember this? I've talked about this a lot. It's crazy. They're playing my greatest hits over here for like the last decade, you know? These are some of my greatest hits over the last decade, and now it's on mainstream news. It's crazy. Larry Summers resigned. A lot of ops are falling left and right. Pretty solid.
Here, she attended her daughter Chelsea's wedding. But she released an opening statement on social media saying she had no idea about Epstein's criminal activities, adding, "I never flew on his plane or visited his island." The deposition took place behind closed doors with video expected later, but it was briefly disrupted when this photograph from inside was leaked.
Lobo took a sneak peek, a candid of Hillary Rodham Clinton, and then sent it to Benny Johnson. And then Benny Johnson watermarked the shit out of the photo and blasted it on the timeline. My God, we are run by animals. This is a country that is straight up on autopilot. There is no other way to approach it. We have truly 10 IQ troglodytes in positions of profound power. Lauren Boebert is one of these people. Absolute clown show. First of all, if you're going to do a sneak peek, you might as well record some of the most damaging parts that they might actually try to strike from the record. That's something that happened with Les Wexner's deposition. Les Wexner was directly asked about Jeffrey Epstein's close relationship with Donald Trump, and they went off the record.
To a conservative commentator. Questions are still being asked about Trump himself, who was once close to Epstein. The president says the files totally exonerate him, but there are reports that key material relating to a woman who made an accusation about the president could be missing. Lawmakers, like Congressman Johnny Olszewski, are trying to dig out information. He took up a Department of Justice offer to search the files without redactions and saw things blacked out that shouldn't have been.
Clearly protecting those who were involved and accused of terrible things.
And those are just the files that have been released. A Channel 4 News investigation suggests they could amount to only 2% of the total.
The extent to which our government continues to withhold these documents is incredibly disturbing and makes me think that it really feels that this is a cover-up worse than Watergate, which was the seminal moment in American politics.
President Trump has always denied wrongdoing, while the Department of Justice...
He looks positively slim in this photo. I do have to say he's kind of slaying. Okay, no disrespect to anybody else, but I know it's not relevant, but he's looking slim. He's looking slim thick.
...has made clear that being in the files does not imply guilt. There are no accusations against Bill Clinton, but his clear association with Jeffrey Epstein will be the subject of questions tomorrow as this scandal continues to unfold. Hillary and Bill Clinton are the first people to have been effectively forced to appear at a deposition, and you can hear in Hillary Clinton's statement that she has read out to lawmakers that she is absolutely furious about that. She thinks it is political. She has said to them, "You've made little effort to call the people who show up most prominently in the files." And when one billionaire businessman, Lex Wexner, was questioned, Republicans didn't even turn up. She's talked about spending her life devoted to, women and girls, talking about meeting girls as young as 12 forced into prostitution, calling it a global scourge with an unimaginable human toll. And she has argued that if this is really about the survivors, then all the Epstein files should be out there. I mentioned in the piece that there's been reporting here from the New York Times and also from NPR suggesting that files relating to Donald Trump might be missing, but our own investigations show that the FBI discussed taking in way more files than we have seen, and that is why people feel that this could be a cover-up.
What? So is Bill Feinberg going to jail? No. I have long maintained the position that this is MAP, mutual assured pedophilia destruction. Okay, it's mad theory, but for instead of nuclear arms, we're talking about leaking the pedophile files. And I think that's what's like holding it together. But the problem is, because this is an international conspiracy, because Jeffrey Epstein had entanglements with so many other countries, there are always going to be other countries that go, this is not great for us. We have to maintain a presence of law and order. So you got like in Norway, princelings getting the boot. You have in the UK some potential justice being served, right? And when that happens, that applies pressure to the American government. Okay, that applies pressure to the American institutions, because then people go, wait a minute, in the United Kingdom, they're actually going after their people. They're going after their Jeffrey Epstein affiliates. Why are we not doing that? Larry Summers was deeply involved with Jeffrey Epstein. We've known this for years and years. And now Harvard, in an effort to save face, is forcing Larry Summers to resign.
There are growing questions this hour about dozens of records that appear to be missing from the Epstein files. According to a CNN review, those records in question are FBI witness interviews, and 3 of the missing interviews are related to a woman who accused both Jeffrey Epstein and...
How will the Republicans spin this? I guess they'll just spin the block and refuse to cover it, right? My favorite contrarian in this entire Jeffrey Epstein saga has been the perennial contrarian Michael Treacy, who's waging war on the internet right now. He will take the opposition position on every single issue. And it's awesome that he straight up is like, we need to defend the pedophilic cabal. Like, we need to defend the pedophilic billionaires. He's been aggressively attacking the victims, saying that they're all like harlots and liars and all this stuff. When they got defenders like Mike Tracy, where's there to worry about? Howard Lutnick confirmed visitor to Epstein's pedophile island showed up to the State of the Union, all smiles, zero shame. And also, I think Howard Lutnick shook Chuck Schumer's hand too at some point. Oh, there it is. It's a big club and you ain't in it is so real, except you don't want to be a part of this big club anyway, right?
And President Trump of sexually assaulting her.
Unless you're Nick Fuentes or one of these losers who's now saying like, well, Jeffrey Epstein was kind of based actually. Unless you're a groyper.
The top Democrat on the Oversight Committee is among those expressing concern.
I went to the DOJ file search room yesterday to look for these documents that are in the manifest document, and they should be in there, and they're not there. These documents relate to a survivor that has made serious allegations about the president. What's important now is that the DOJ explain to us why were those documents removed.
CNN's Kara Scannell joins us now. So, Kara, what more do we know about the specifics of these documents?
Well, Erica, the CNN investigative team have taken a look into these records, and they found that there are dozens of files that are missing. And the way that they were able to do this is they looked at the serial numbers that were on an evidence log provided to Epstein's accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell. And looking at those serial numbers, discovered that there were dozens of them missing. I mean, these all relate to 302s. That's the FBI form for witness interviews. And there are 325 included on that list, but there are 90 of them missing. And within those 90 that are missing includes 3 from a woman who said that she was sexually assaulted by Jeffrey Epstein going back to when she was as young as 13 years old. And she also made an allegation that she was sexually assaulted by Donald Trump in the 19...
By the way, whenever they say young woman, it blows my mind because the victim is like barely the victim is a baby, okay? He's a child. Like 13-year-old is not a young woman. 13-year-old's a little girl. Like, holy
late sex offender went to greater lengths than previously known to conceal potential evidence of his crimes. 11 days before police raided Epstein's Palm Beach mansion in 2005, a private investigator took away computers, telephone directories, sex toys, and pornography. The items are inventoried in a previously unseen memo the investigator prepared for Epstein's lawyer, who had given instructions to remove items of potential evidentiary value from Epstein's home. A lawyer who represents scores of Epstein's victims has long believed he was tipped off the police were coming.
You see him working hand in hand with his lawyers and private investigators to make sure that his decades-long sex trafficking operation was not uncovered. So it shows you the incredible power he had.
In video taken by Palm Beach police on the day of the search, you can see officers zero in on monitors, keyboards, and printers, but the computers appeared to be missing. The inventory list says the private eye removed 3 computers, a 3-page directory of Florida masseuses, and a photograph of a white female. There were also nude photos, sex manuals, and 29 telephone directories believed to hold Epstein's contacts of the rich and powerful.
It's just incredibly frustrating because if we had had this information 10 years ago, we could have spared a lot of lives.
Prosecutors went to great lengths in 2007 to obtain the missing computers, believing they contained relevant and potentially critical information. But Epstein's lawyers fought to keep them away from prosecutors, and they have never been fully recovered. And this morning, the Justice Department says it is reviewing whether materials about an unproven sexual assault accusation against President Trump were omitted from public release. Documents related to the woman who made the claim, which dates to more than 40 years ago when the accuser was a minor, could not be located in a search by ABC News. Trump has long denied any wrongdoing, and the Justice Department says it will publish any documents found to have been improperly tagged in the review process. Now, what happened?
Just a oopsie, man. Just a oopsie. We combed through millions of files, and oopsie, we just happened to improperly file the 13-year-old who accused Donald Trump of statutory rape. It's just, who would have guessed it, you know?
To Epstein's Palm Beach computers and all of the other items taken out of the house remains a mystery. The lawyer who arranged to remove the items died last year, and guys, we could not reach the private investigator hired for the job.
Amazing, there's still a mystery here.
So,
thank you, Aaron.
Quote, "We got you," spelled with a U, the letter. That's what the governor of the U.S. Virgin Islands told Jeffrey Epstein just months before Epstein's arrest in 2019, and obviously, of course, more than a decade after he was already convicted of soliciting a minor for prostitution back in 2008. Newly released Justice Department documents show that as regulators investigated unauthorized construction on one of Epstein's 2 private islands, issuing stop work orders and weighing potential fines, Epstein appealed directly to the island's governor for help. Text messages uncovered by K-Files show Governor Albert Bryan Jr. telling Epstein he had asked one of the regulators to, quote, hold everything until speaking with him, and later sought the recusal of the commissioner overseeing the dispute. K-Files' Andrew Kaczynski joins me now. And, you know, Andrew, this is so important as we get to the heart of Jeffrey Epstein and how he had the power and money that he had and how he wielded it, and this entire circle. So this gets to the influence and how he wielded it. What do these messages reveal?
Yeah, and you hit it right there. These messages, they offer a rare window into how Epstein operated in the U.S. Virgin Islands, where he leveraged his wealth, business footprint, and promises of investment to try to influence local officials. Now, I want to give people a little background here. Epstein had deep roots in the Virgin Islands. He bought his private island, Little St. James, in the 1990s. He later expanded. You can see them both there. He later expanded his footprint in 2016 and purchased neighboring Great St. James. And the permits show that he had plans to build docks, roads, residencies, and other development. And this is where these texts with the governor come into play. Now, by December 2018, regulators were scrutinizing construction on Great St. James. The Virginian Islands Department of Planning and Natural Resources had issued a stop work order and began reviewing potential violations. Epstein then reaches out directly to then the newly elected governor, Democrat Albert Bryan Jr. Look at this exchange between the two. Epstein complained about potential fines, and Bryan said he spoke to John Pierre Orell, that is the commissioner of the department, who they're calling JP in these texts, and he asked him, Bryan said he had asked him to, quote, hold everything until he and the attorney spoke to me later. Epstein complains that the same commissioner, JP, was, quote, going after me in the press, to which Bryan responded that he had asked the commissioner to recuse himself. And then in another subsequent message, Bryan wrote, I asked him to recuse himself and concede on all previous permit requests. Now, the documents don't show what.
I mean, this is the beginning of this relationship, which obviously led to so much further scrutiny that there was like a legal case against the islands. This is stuff that isn't even new information, really. Like, this is stuff that we know about because there was a separate court case against the Virgin Islands already. Like, Jeffrey Epstein was basically running the show over there. It's pretty f***ed up. I guess it doesn't hurt that there's like even more confirmation now in the public eye, but this is something that we've covered before.
Ultimately change, but what they do show is this: there was an active regulatory dispute. Epstein was communicating directly with the governor of the territory, and the governor was telling him that he was intervening on his behalf. Later, when Brian...
If you were to speculate when in his life do you think Epstein was tapped and recruited by intelligence, I think like right before the Iran-Contra affair, like right when he got into Bear Stearns the first time. Like, I don't know exactly what point in his life where his career changed so dramatically, but I think it was fairly early on, because he went from working under Bill Barr's dad at a New York school as like a math teacher in the Dalton school to being on the floor at Bear Stearns. And at that point, and that was Bill Barr's dad who gave him the job at the Dalton school, for the record. Bill Barr, the attorney general under Trump, like when Jeffrey Epstein was killed in prison under the watchful gaze of Bill Barr, there were connections between Bill Barr and Jeffrey Epstein far before then. Bill Barr's dad was Jeffrey Epstein's boss, the principal at the Dalton School in New York.
If they would have released all of these files at once when they were supposed to be released, we wouldn't be talking about this past January.
Should there have been a special master?
That's not true.
I think there should have been an independent person.
No, you wish. You're out of your dang mind. Oh, yeah. It's really tough to release all of these files at once. There's, of course, going to be a lot of duplicates, and each individual agency is redacting different aspects of it. But also, if we were to release them all at once, everyone would have stopped talking about it. That's bullshit. It probably would have softened the blow a little bit, or it would have made the pain worse initially. There would have been a lot of conversations about it, but then slowly but surely people would go through the files and would most likely come to the same conclusions that people are coming to right now in real time, because the incidents took place, the crimes took place, the connections are still very real, and the people that were deeply connected to Jeffrey Epstein are still very much a part of elite society. I think people's resentment, people's animosity, people's anger would not have gone away. Did the Trump administration, with their slow rolling of the documentation, with their heavy redactions, actually make it worse? Sure.
Right, that sort of dealt with this.
Yes, an independent person who could have dealt with this.
Chuck, I want to go back to the point you were making before the break, which is this idea of the Epstein class, because, I mean, that really is the thing that has stuck out to me as we have learned more and more about this. Something that started in the realm where everybody wanted to call it a conspiracy theory, right? Both Democrats and Republicans that I talked to in this town would say that it was a conspiracy theory. There were people in the MAGA base for President Trump that really wanted these files out. His vice president was one of the loudest.
And they still do. This is the one area where the base is at odds with the administration. And that's precisely the reason why the administration had to lean into it and reveal it. And of course, because they're so incompetent, when they inevitably gave in, when they inevitably caved, they did not realize that the reaction would continue. They did not realize that the scrutiny would only increase. Like, it's the closest that I think us Americans have ever arrived at like an understanding of class, because this is the maximum worst possible thing that billionaires can do and get away with, and they clearly got away with it. So no matter how right-wing you are, no matter how much you believe that, like, you know, billionaires are actually trying to do well and trying to do right by everybody, and it's an aspirational goal. No one is thinking it's an aspirational goal to be a part of an international sex trafficking of minors ring, right? So no matter how much these guys like suck up to the super wealthy and say they're jobs creators and cope and whatever, ultimately they don't, like, with the exception of a couple incels and groypers and people like that, most people look at the situation and go, this is gross, this is disgusting, we need truth. We don't care if it actually ends up harming people on our side of the political spectrum.
Well, I think it does create some problem with some parts of his base when they feel let down about another issue. It's just sort of like, you know, over time that chips away. It becomes a trust thing. But, you know, let me also step back. There was a lot of people that believed, you know, a lot of strange things about Epstein. And so the craziest conspiracies have proven not to be true. But that doesn't mean what was done was not bad, right?
Really? Is that your takeaway? The craziest elements of the Epstein conspiracy have been proven not to be true? That was your takeaway? What are some of the craziest? Like, I don't know, eating babies? Sure. Okay. Some people believe that, like, Tom Hanks was eating children. Okay, that's not true. fine. But that's a very vague generalization here. If you're saying that international capital was deeply embedded and entrenched in an international sex trafficking ring led by a CIA and possible Mossad agent that was trafficking weapons and destabilizing countries and selling Israeli surveillance to other countries and selling American surveillance like Palantir to Israel, all of that is 100% true. And if you look at it broadly, I would go so far as to say Cassie Hunt's analysis on this is correct and yours is wrong, cucktod, that yes, this actually did vindicate a lot of conspiracy theorists. If anything, it frustrates me endlessly whenever people come in and they hyper focus on Pizzagate and how this actually vindicates the Pizzagators and like that. It's not true. It's the exact opposite. But there are plenty of elements here that are real.
And I think that this is why this has been a difficult, why you've seen everybody handle this. It's not what people rumored and feared that it was.
Your analysis often misses at the point that the base only wants these files out if it's bad for the other political side. This is team sports like always. I don't think that's entirely correct. But even if people have that as a motivator, then great, because guess what? It still reveals information. But this is a bipartisan effort between Thomas Massie and Ro Khanna. They were the champions of this revelation. And guess what? In the aftermath of that, there have been people who have received more scrutiny than they ever did before in their lives, and we have this information at our disposal now. It's a good thing. It's a good thing that, regardless of the motivation, it's kind of like the WikiLeaks stuff, right? People will be like, "Oh, Julian Assange hates Hillary Clinton, and Julian Assange worked with FSB and only released the files that they had on the DNC. They never released the files that they had on the RNC." And if you recall at the time, if you were in here back then, I said, I don't give a shit, right? I don't care that like this was a partisan initiative because at the end of the day, those conversations at the DNC were happening. Those are real communiques that we now have access to as a direct consequence of Julian Assange's brave work at WikiLeaks. It doesn't matter if it's like done in a partisan manner. Don't you want to know the truth? And the same goes for this case at all as well. You got Democrats that want Republicans to be tarred and feathered. Great. And you have Republicans that think elite Democrats are going to be the only ones that are held responsible. That's also great. Fantastic. It doesn't matter to us. If you care about the truth, then use this moment to your advantage. And also, I don't even think that what you're saying is all that correct. The other day, there was a Trump supporter who was 21 years old from North Carolina that went to a Walmart, purchased a shotgun and a gas canister, and walked up to Mar-a-Lago, got shot and killed by Secret Service. That's a Trump supporter. Now, obviously, I'm not urging people to do that. That would be fucking insane. But what I'm trying to say is a Trump supporter did see that and clearly didn't have that partisan approach, okay? There are a lot more Trump supporters out there, I think, that see this as a bipartisan incident. And that reflects the data as well, for the record. Here it is. Americans believe the Epstein files shows that the powerful get a pass. Reuters Ipsos poll finds among all adults, 69% strongly agree that the Jeffrey Epstein files show that powerful people are rarely held accountable. This is why I said this is the purest expression of class, purest expression of class you can ever arrive at, where you have somewhat agree at 17%, strongly agree at 69%, and disagree at 11%. Do you understand how crazy that is? Even among Republicans, 58% say they strongly agree that the Epstein files prove that powerful people are rarely held accountable, and 28% somewhat agree. Even among Republicans, I'm sorry, this is something that transcends party lines. You can say part of the reason why it was because conservatives oftentimes trafficked in conspiracy in the realm of conspiracy. Turns out some of those conspiracies were real and it wasn't a fucking conspiracy theory at all. But ultimately, this is the reason why I say this is something that is totally nonpartisan. The files have lowered my trust in political and business leaders is another important one, where 53% of all adults say strongly agree and 24% somewhat agree. Amongst Republicans, 33% say they strongly agree that the Epstein files have lowered their trust in political and business leaders, and 35% say they somewhat agree that the Epstein files revelations have lowered their trust in political and business leaders. That's huge. The hardest part of this would be to decouple the MAGA base from Trump directly by consistently hammering on the point that Donald Trump was a primary recipient, was a primary co-conspirator, was a friend to Jeffrey Epstein. They don't want to see that reality, and that's fine. As long as, I mean, it's not fine, but like you work with what you have.